Welcome to our regular iSpring webinar series where we discuss e-learning trends, share tips and tricks, and highlight client success stories. I'm Kate. I'm a community manager at iSpring, and I'm your moderator for today's session. And today's webinar, titled 15 Course Design Mistakes That Ruin Engagement and Metrics, will provide a host of useful tips and tricks about visual design that will help you with the content creation process. And now, let me introduce you to our instructional designer, Wiz, and your presenter for today, Anna Poli. Hi, Anna. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. And how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm feeling great too, and I can't wait to get started.
Let me know if you can see my screen, if you can hear me well, like any emoji in the chat will be good. Okay, awesome. Okay, it seems like everything is working fine. So, hello everyone once again, and welcome. Our topic today is the 15 most frequent mistakes in course design and how to avoid them. I'm sure this will be a huge help for you all, and we'll dive into details in just a moment. But first, let me tell you a little about my department, iSpring Academy. So, we are part of iSpring Solutions, of course, and our job is to provide resources to inform, inspire, and upskill our customers and e learning enthusiasts all over the world. We provide video courses for instructional designers. We hold webinars on content design and e learning management. And we offer an iSprint certification program for anyone who really wants to master our software and give their resume a boost. And of course, we also create off the shelf and custom courses for our clients. So that's what we do. Now, I would like to learn more about you. So, first of all, I would like to know a bit about your current work. So, my colleague Kate will launch a poll with 5 answers. Choose one that suits you best. So, what sector do you work in? Is it the corporate sector, a nonprofit sector, educational, governmental, you're a freelancer, or maybe you just work in different sector? So let us know in the chat if so. We will be eager to know. Okay, so as far as I can see, we have members of all the sectors so far. That's awesome. Wonderful. So thank you so much for sharing all of your answers. Okay, thank you. And my second question for today will be is how did you acquire your knowledge about instructional design? So through like any formal education and training programs, or you just attended workshop conferences, or just on the job experience and trial and error, or just by reading books and articles, or maybe any other way. So let us know. If nothing like applies, you can just select other and let us know in the chat for sure. Okay. Okay. Yeah, on the job experience and trial and error definitely means this one. Okay. Thank you everyone for your feedback and thank you for your active participation. So I believe we can move on to our presentation, to our webinar. So, like I said, today I'm going to go over the 15 most frequent mistakes in course design so you can avoid them making these errors when creating your own content. Our list is in the order of increasing frequency of these mistakes. And we will start with the 15th most common mistake and count down to the number one most common mistake. So, one more thing that I need to mention for sure, that's absolutely up to a person who I believe we all have our favorite mistakes, right? But this is like in our experience, in iSpring experience, and based on the experience of our users. So this is how we created this top 15. Okay, now let's start with our 15th most frequently made mistake. So these we call distracting effects in slide background photos. This doesn't happen so often, but we sometimes still come across it. Sure, no doubt we all like to add photos to make our presentations more appealing and all that. But if you add certain effects, this is going to be visually distracting to your audience. For example, on your screen right now, you can see a course cover with a pixelated effect. Maybe the course designer wanted to make the photo appear less noticeable than the text, but honestly, in my opinion, it does just the opposite. So it really stands out because this effect catches your eye and not in a good way. Here's another PowerPoint effect applied. So this is more subtle, but with the photo blown out, it's harder to see the text, and a lot of elements here just get lost. So I'm not saying never use any effects, but for the most part, you're going to want to avoid them. Okay, let's move on to mistake number 14. It is wild speech bubbles or rather their tails. So sometimes we see course developers extend the tail of the speech bubble right to the character, like thinking the learner will not guess, but this or that phrase belongs to you. But in reality, all you need to do is to point this element in the right direction. So you don't have to extend it to the character's ear, or as we can see here. So I also often see this element extended right to the mouth. So it can look really weird sometimes. So I think that we can all agree here. So when you create speech bubbles, please be sure to pay attention to those tails. And let me show you one more tail. So this tail is just out of control. And to avoid the temptation of creating such a long tail, just place a speech bubble closer to the character. If it follows a proximity principle, which says that elements related in meaning should be placed side by side, we won't even be tempted to create this kind of speech bubble. And if you need like two or maybe more speech bubbles on the slide, for example, when you have a dialogue between two or more characters, imagine how the slide would look if you use those wild speech bubbles, these long tails. So those slides would probably look chaotic and intimidating. Now let me show you an example of a normal looking speech bubble. Okay, so here we go. Now the tail is small and it just simply points at the speaker in the right direction. But definitely know that this person is saying this phrase. Okay, go ahead, to mistake number 13, and it is overuse of art objects in PowerPoint. So I believe we all know that PowerPoint is full of various 3D figures, these text volume effects. It might be tempting to use this in an effort of embellish or highlight text on the slide, but really, these are rather distracting and, well, a bit on the cheesy side. In the end, it's better to keep it simple rather than create a sort of visual chaos on the slide with these kind of objects. Okay, now let's take a look at mistake number 12. And it is a violation of the proximity principle. So, the proximity principle is the idea that it's important to place elements with connected meanings close together. This is because the physical location of each item in the design creates a logical relationship with other features on the page. So, the proximity principle plays an important role when it comes to learner comprehension. If you violate the proximity principle, I'm afraid that you risk confusing your learners at some point. So, sometimes your learners can get overwhelmed and simply close the course after the first few slides and never return to it. Doesn't sound like we want them to do that, right? We want just the opposite. So let's take a look at the example on the screen. Here, the proximity principle is clearly being ignored. The numbers are on the left, and the text elements referring to the numbers are on the right. And these elements are not only just afar from each other, but also placed on different levels. So in the middle, additionally, we can see character who literally divides our content blocks. And as a result, it's hard to grasp which elements relate to each other. So to make the slide better, I will move the character to the right side of the screen where there's a gray rectangle while placing the text to the left, closer to the number icons, because this will make the information much easier to understand visually. Okay, so this person will be here and the text will be here close to the numbers. Okay, now we are on to mistake number 11, and I'm gonna ask you if you can spot it. So take a look at the slide on your screen right now and write your thoughts about what's wrong here in our chat. Okay, so there are several possible options. Since this slide is not perfect, so no rush, take your time. I will take a sip of water if you don't mind while you're answering this question. Ooh, wow, so much comments. Let me quickly go through them. Okay. Mhm. Ooh. Okay, so I have, since you mentioned hard to read text, okay, you're right. Susan mentioned font color. Yes, definitely. Um, Amy told that the gradient makes the text hard to read, which is also an accessibility issue. Absolutely right. Yes. Um, Linda told too much color variation. Probably yes, can be one of them. Um, Strange distracting gradient. The color behind the text is distracting. Color scheme makes it difficult to read. Orange draws your eye to look at it first. Okay. Linda mentioned there is not enough contrast in the blue orange box. Yeah, font size. Oh, wow. Okay, alignment of the box to the top text. Okay. The text and background don't work together. It's hard to read. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for all of your answers. Thank you for being so active. Okay, and one more comment by Pete. My philosophy is that unless an affect, picture or wherever adds to the content, it distracts. Yeah. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Was it's hard to trick you. You know all the answers already. Okay. So I agree with all of your comments. Most of them are just perfectly like explained the situation which is going on the slide. But let's focus on one of the mistakes that we have here. So our mistake number 11 for today is the great and terrible gradient. So you can budge a number of things by using gradient incorrectly. For instance, when we add a gradient like we did on the example slide, it can cause your color scheme to clash. Also, the text becomes hard to read. Item 2 and 3 on the slides, on this slide right now, are virtually unreadable against this background since there's not enough contrast where one color blends into the other. But for sure, gradient is not always a bad idea. And sometimes it works really well on certain slides. So for instance, it can be used on player buttons as we can see on this slide. So you can use a gradient, but you need to incorporate it into your course in a way that works. And if you don't feel comfortable making custom gradients yet, I would search online for ready-made gradients to use. So there are a lot of websites where you can do this, and you're more than welcome to go ahead and use it. So just to sum up, depending on how you use it, gradient can hurt or help your presentation. Okay, and also let me know what you but this course, which you can see right now on your screens, was made in the new version of iSpring Suite. And if you haven't tried all the advantages of iSpring Suite 11 with its new player design, character builder, uh, text-to-speech feature, or platform for hosting course portfolio, and with AI features, you're very welcome to do that. You can find a link to download the free trial version of our offering tool in the left bottom corner of your screens right now. Okay, so now let's go back to our top mistakes. And we are down to mistake number 10. And this is about too many different shapes. So take a look at this slide. At first glance, the slide might even seem well designed and there's nothing wrong with it. But this slide uses too many different shapes. We can see a round shape for buttons, a rounded and a sharp edged rectangle for the text, and an unusual shape for the photo. So there are four shapes on one slide in total, which is definitely too many. Um, One thing that I want to share with you is that it's important to understand that shapes convey a certain meaning. This can not that obvious, maybe. Yes, let's say if you talk about colors and fonts, it's kind of obvious, but about shapes, they have meanings too. So that's why it's best to use similar shapes in one course. And I would love to know if you ever thought about shapes when you decide which shapes to use for your course design. Kate, can you please launch a poll? This question: have you ever considered shapes meaning in a course? Yes or no? Okay. So you can click yes if you thought about each shape's meaning. Like, for example, when you select square or round buttons for course player, and no if you never thought about this. Okay, I can see that most of you already voted. So, you clever ones. A lot of you guys considered shapes. And for some of you who did not, let me tell you a little bit more about this. So, when you're at the planning stage of your course, you certainly want to consider what the general mood and tone of the course will be. And one way to convey this mood, is through shapes. Um, for instance, um, a circle is a symbol of positivity and usually associated with subject matter, but isn't that heavy. And if in the courses you have some serious content, the use of more dramatic or edgy shapes will definitely work better. So let's return to the overabundance of different shapes on this slide. So when a course contains too many different shapes, it really gives off a vibe of chaos. So right now we are looking at only one slide, right? But let's imagine that we have a 30 slide course in which each slide uses different shapes. In my opinion, such slides will look kind of odd, and the multitude of shapes will be distracting for me. So I believe that this is not something that you want to have in your courses. This is why I recommend you to make sure you determine what shapes will be used for the slides before you begin building your course. Okay, let me take a look quickly in the chat if we have any question or something. Okay, so yes, you're right. Number 11 was the great and terrible gradient, and number 10, too many different shapes. Okay, now let's move on to our next mistake. I will be honest with you, this is one of my favorite mistakes that I made all over and over again in the past. Okay, the next mistake is called everything is important. So, this happens when you want to highlight several key ideas on one slide because you feel like everything on the slide is important. If you feel this way, my advice is to take a deep breath and maybe rethink your content on this slide. Because there's a rule that says one slide should contain only one key idea. And if you find that you have 5 or even 10 key ideas on one slide, like we have here, and as Karen and Tiffany mentioned in the chat, when there's too many key points, uh, we recommend to break it up, to break the slide into different slides. So you can also use one of the built-in interactions in iSpring Suite to convey information better. But if you work in PowerPoint, you definitely need to divide the slide into several ones. So, for instance, here we have divided the text into a few different slides and choose the key idea and secondary idea and then place them hierarchically. So if you try to follow the one slide, one idea rule, you probably won't encounter such a complication. Okay, now let's move on to the next slide. So, before we continue, I want to let you all know that we have a video course on course development. So, this course is going to be useful for those who are looking to become instructional designers or learning and development specialists, and those who want to refresh their knowledge. So, it's called How to Create an Interactive Online Course. And in the course, you will master some fundamental principles for creating effective courses. You will find out more about instructional design theories and methods. You will know about course development stages. And also, you will learn how to create measurable and observable learning objectives. So, click on the link in the bottom left corner of your screens to learn more about the course. And upon the completion of this course, you will get a certificate that can serve as a great addition to your resume. And for sure, if you want to see if this course is a good fit for you, you're more than welcome to take 3 demo lessons for free from this course. So just follow the link in the bottom left corner to take the free lessons. Okay, now it's time um, to go back to our mistakes. And the next mistake will be number 8 is misused animations. So courses often use animations which can be gr- a great way to engage learners, right? But only if it adds meaning to the course and doesn't seem to be used randomly. So let's take a look at the example slide right now. So I will mute myself for a moment so you can take a look and see what you will think about the next slide. Okay, so what I think about these slides use of animations. So you're more than welcome to share your thoughts in the chat, and I will just replay it again once for you. Okay, I hope that you feel ready for this. Okay, here we go. If you need to replay it once again, let me know. I will review your comments. What do you think about this? Okay, too many animations and not consistent. Right. Animations came in out of order. Exactly. And imagined too many animations. Michelle told it was chaotic. Yep. Jessica commented unnecessary. Lori mentioned our woman felt dizzy. Okay, you're absolutely right. Yes. Okay, so I will replay it once again as soon as I have this in the chat. So if you feel dizzy, you better not watch. I will tell you when you can go back. Okay, one more, one more time. But I believe that if you see this for the third time, probably it's like a kind of guilty pleasure, right? Okay. Instant cringe. Yep. Um, S- Stefan told someone just learned how to do animations. Too excited about animations. Disembodied firefighter. Yeah, so you definitely got this idea. Um, but there are definitely too much animations. Okay, so this slide is actually not so bad, but it does violate a rule that says that there should not be more than two or three animation effects in the entire course. So be sure that you don't use a fade out animation on the one slide, a pop up type of animation on another, and rotation on the next one. Because as you all, I believe you all filled it, but this this is not right. I- so many different animations can create a sense of disorganization for the learner. For sure, for maybe one or two slides at the very beginning of the course, it can look interesting for someone. People are different, okay, that's fine. But it will get extremely annoying by the fifth slide. So sometimes courses also use some transitions that can take away from the slide. And let's take a look at this one transition which was added to this course. So please pay your attention to the slide, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody. Okay, now we will see the transition applied to this slide. Okay, and that's it. Now let me go back and I will show you it once again. But right now in the chat, let me know what do you think about this transition. So, no, grade school, trash, distracting, pointless. Okay, looks like it's broken. Are they throwing away the slide? Okay, so you're right. So this transition might be fun in a course for elementary school students. Probably. But for an adult audience, it might come off as a bit unprofessional. So this is an example of how important is to know your audience. So you present your material in a way that is appropriate for them, right? So yes, for us it looks like we just threw our presentation in the trash our poor firefighter, but maybe children will going to love this, but you need to know your audience, that's for sure. Once again. Okay, now let's go on to mistake number 7. Characters suspended in zero gravity. So we at iSpring love characters. They add so much personality and personalization to your courses. But please avoid making your characters look like the laws of gravity do not apply to them. So, unfortunately, I often see people position their characters like this on the slide. Sorry, I just saw a comment from Gretchen. I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name, unless you're preparing a course for NASA. That was fun. Okay, let's go back to work. Um, so sometimes I still see when people position their characters like this. And I would like to know that it's not necessary to show the character's full height because we would we could lose this magical eye contact. And if the character is far away, the learner will have more trouble recognizing their emotions. So they can place a character closer and by cutting it off at around waist height. This will make the character larger on the slide and we will be able to see their emotions and to create this visual and emotional contact. And here's another example of some floating folks. In this case, the creator tried to put all the characters on the floor as if they are standing, but it still doesn't look quite natural, right? So it's better not to risk that. Let me show you another version of this slide. So here we placed the character closer together and closer to the learner. So for sure, you can place characters in other ways. Just be careful and don't leave them floating in the air. Okay, so I can see comment from Steve, way more usable and readable. Okay, thank you. Let's move on to our next mistake, and it is known as text overload. So we often make the mistake of adding too much text. And if you realize that you have a large amount of text and it doesn't fit, as I mentioned before, think about dividing the content into a few slides. But let's take a look at another example with too much text. So our learner will have to move their head from one end to the other on every line. And if they have a larger monitor, they will have a serious neck workout. And this is where we can ask too much of our learners. So, reading of the text in your course shouldn't require physical extension. So, let's love our learners. Let me show you about another example of a lot of text on the slide. Maybe not another tag, a lot of tags, but another like mistake with a text. Um, Often used in the courses, I can see quite often. is it is a justified text layout. I've also included this mistake here under number 6, but I think it can be even placed higher since this is unfortunately very common. But I want to tell you what, in my opinion, a justified layout is taboo in courses. Why? Because it creates additional space between words. There shouldn't be any. And each additional space is interpreted by our brain as a stop. But we don't want the learner to stop after every word, right? So this can be easily solved. You can set up aligning the text to the left and that's it. But this is one of the problems that I wanted to pay attention to. Okay, now you can see the next mistake on the screen. And again, I need your help. Look carefully and let me know which mistake has been made here. So write your thoughts in the chat and take your time. Okay, you don't need any time. You're right. Spelling and typos. You rock, guys. Okay. Number 5 mistake is typos and spelling errors. So I don't think that I need to explain why this is so bad. And you might be surprised, but I do still see people make this mistake. So this is a huge no-no. And I strongly recommend having courses checked by professional proofreaders. Or if that's not possible for some reasons, at least by one of your colleagues, or at least use spell check and grammar check. It's also really important for you to take a break from your course and come back to it later. Don't ship it out to your learners right after finishing it. Everyone makes errors and typos, and that's absolutely fine. We are people, not perfect, so um, that's good. But um, especially when you're working on the course alone without a team and you're responsible for all the stages, it can definitely happen. So at a certain point, you will have gone through the text so many times and you will stop seeing your own errors. So please be sure to take a break to reset your brain a bit for an hour or more. Have a cup of coffee, do some yoga, take a walk or whatever, and then come back to proofread your presentation. Okay, we've come to mistake number 4. Another favorite of mine. The patchwork slide. This is a slide that uses a mishmash of different styles, colors, and ways of presenting information. This is not the worst example, but you can see that the colors don't match well. Icons have different formats, different styles, and the text is in the different formats. Um, we can also see a generic stock character here, and I assume it was added to draw our eyes to the text, but unfortunately, it does just the opposite. I can't stop looking at this little guy. Can you? And also, the word algorithm is underlined on the slide, and many people associate underline a text with a link to that website, which definitely has its reasons. So it looks like something you need to click on to go somewhere. So only underline words that are links and use bold for important elements or increase their size to draw learners' attention. And of course, it's important to select a single way to draw attention to the text throughout the entire course. If, for instance, you already are using italics, don't use bold or underlining. Okay, we're down to our final three most frequently made mistakes. So, are you ready for mistake number three? And it is excessive buttons and tabs. On this slide, you can see a course from learner's perspective. And here's a player the user interacts with. As you can see, the standard player template, this default buttons and tabs is used here. But if there's no presenter or no resources in the course, these buttons at the top section of the player, so these ones, should be removed. If the course has no voiceover or no background music, you need to remove the sound on off button and the slide replay button. So be sure you only include buttons that are actually necessary for your course. And we have arrived at number two, poor use of hierarchy. So the idea of a hierarchy in design involves positioning the elements on a slide so that the learner follows a specific order. First, they read the title, then the key idea, then maybe some additional information. Here, the title is really competing with the subtitle. It's even hard to tell which of the elements is the title. So the entire content of the slide has to be understood in order of grasp, what is most important in the next. So to use hierarchy effectively, you need to show the importance of elements on this slide by using a kind of visual ranking system. The most important elements should be larger and more visible. And font size and boldness should be applied in order of decreasing importance. And so we present the content in a way that makes the learner intuitively understand the order of importance of elements on the slide. So we need to know where to look this, and that. Um, okay, I have one comment from Bob King. This is like photography. Watch for a branch coming out of their head. Her hand right on the deadline is really distracting to the eye. Yeah, that's right. Okay, and now the big reveal. Based on the iSpring experience in courses and based on the work with clients, the number one most frequently mistake made in course design is the use of substandard images. When selecting an image for a course, we need to understand the meaning it conveys. If it complements our material or it is a metaphor of some kind, Try not to add images just because they look great. Everything on the slide should be be there for a reason. If you look at the image on the screen right now, in terms of whether it fits the meaning of the slide, we can see that it really doesn't work. The image depicts a team, or at least I think it does, which is suggestive of coordinated teamwork or a common idea, while the text is telling us about office rules. So I think that there is a certain clash of meanings. And of course, avoid the temptation to use stock images. You will across you will come across a lot of them online. Most of these photos are unnatural and make your course like look amateur. So, for example, right now in this page on your screen, we can see an ideal picture, an ideal computer without a speck of dust, and a photoshopped person with perfect skin, which doesn't exist. Sorry, jealous moment. Um, just kidding. Um, so this doesn't look real, and learners don't identify these things that don't match up with their reality. So it's important to add images that are authentic, because this will allow you to create an emotional connection with learners. Let me show you another example of a stock photo. So it's a little better than the previous one because it depicts a more realistic workplace situation. So we can see an office with workers. Um, they working, but look at their facial expressions. Is this how people work at the computer? So the perfect posture and excessively bleached and pressed work shorts. So scream no, right? Let's go to another stock image. It's a bit better than the two previous ones, but for me, it still doesn't ring true to real life. How often do you see colleagues high fiving each other after a meeting? So the cringe factor on this one is pretty obvious, I think. So don't put your learners through this. They don't need that. And just for good measure, here's some more examples. Completely misdefined stock photos, but you should avoid using. Really? That one with the computer on the beach is my favorite. So she's having so much fun. Okay. So in any case, I believe you get the point. Okay. And we have one more we have comment from Keith. Sorry if I misspell your name. I'm so sorry. Using images with watermarks, no cool. That's right, not cool. Mm-mm. Okay. Now let's quickly take a look at examples of photos and decide whether they're stock photos or they're good for our courses. So, example number one, take a look and tell me would you use it in your course. So my colleague Kate will launch a poll, and you can select good if it will work for your course and bad if it doesn't work. Okay. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm just following this, and they like have the same number of votes. I'm just so interested who will win. Okay, one, two, three. The bad one, oh, the good one wins. Okay, so thank you everyone for your answers. And I would say, uh, so this photo is a stock one. So we know this is a stock photo because it looks like an perfect and fake version of reality. So here we see colleagues with identical pencils in their hands who are actively looking at the monitor and pointing at it with a pencil. And the photo is almost perfect with people who look like they're posing. So it really seems staged to me. So for me, definitely a stock photo. Let's take a look at this example. So most likely, this is a photo from the same series as the previous one. Go ahead, couple of moments to give you time to vote. Um, okay, most of you voted for bad. So if you look at how the elements are arranged on the table, it's pretty clear that this isn't a normal looking workplace. This kind of unrealistic setting. So clearly a stock photo. Let's move on to another example. So here we see laptops with chargers, an open notebook on the table, there are stickers on the wall, chairs in the random places, and for me, that's a pretty authentic scene. Looks like a real office, so yeah, this will definitely be a good photo in your courses. So this photo is also pretty good because everyone is sitting in different natural positions and there's a feeling of a little controlled chaos, which feels true to life. And in my opinion, you can definitely use this photo in a course. So, what do you all think of our list of frequent mistakes in course design? You can see all the mistakes we covered today. Tell me which one is your favorite. And share your thoughts, comments, emotions, or ask your questions in the chat. Um, one more thing that I need to tell you about is our whoopsie, is our video course. For those of you who want to take their first steps in the world of word course creation, you can create a complete course from scratch using only the help of exercises and feedback from your iSpring trainer. Also, this course is a great way to refresh your ID knowledge, and as a matter of the fact, you already met your trainer. As iSpring Senior Instructional Designer, I will share my expertise and will give you a helping hand when creating courses like a professional. Okay, so this course has 20 video lessons with an average duration of 15 minutes. 10 of these lessons come with a practical assignments for which you will receive your feedback. All the lessons are accessible right away, so you don't need to wait for us to send them to you. Um, as your trainer, I will review every task, answer your questions, go over your mistakes, and help you fix them. And as I said before, you will be assigned tasks after lessons to put your knowledge into practice. So you're more than welcome to take them. And as a way to show us your appreciation for taking part in this session, we are giving all of you a 10% discount on this fantastic course. So to get it, Just follow the link in the bottom left corner. This offer is valid till November 28th, so don't miss your chance to master your skills. And yes, and as my colleague mentioned in the chat, please share your feedback about our webinar. You can just follow the link or it will appear after our webinar will be ended. Okay, I'm not sure, Kate, if we still have time for Q&A, or it will be easier if we go back to you via email, but I don't have any
Yeah.
other information.
Yeah, I think we're run out of time. And if you have any questions, feel free to write to our email, or you can fill out the Google form that the link to it I shared in the chat. So I will share it again. And there you can write questions that you have right now, and we will answer them by email. So yes, and just a few things before we say goodbye. We have another webinar coming up soon. The webinar is called "How to Create and Host an Impressive Instructional Designer Portfolio with iSpring Suite," and it will be on 28th of November. I will share a link if you wanna join us. Um, yeah. So. Thank you all for being here with us. And thank you, Anna, again, for sharing all this helpful info with us and doing this fantastic presentation. Hope you have enjoyed today's session. Bye bye. Take care.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye. Happy holidays. Yeah, that's true.